Every time I make one of these videos, I'm just like, I hope this is the last one I make before the deliveries officially begin. So once again, here I am hoping this is the last GigaTexas update video before I actually get to report on first deliveries have begun. Because thanks to Jeff Roberts and Joe Tegmeyer flying their drones around the factory, we're now seeing hundreds of 4680 Model Ys parked outside of the factory. Yes, of course, these were built inside with the structural battery pack. And of course, they're calibrating equipment, they're testing things just like Giga Berlin, which just surpassed 1,000 Model Ys built, and the sad thing is, they can't deliver any of them because they don't have final paperwork and permits yet. Sadly, there's probably still a long way to go over in Germany, but in GigaTexas, there's actually only one EPA permit pending approval, and once that one permit is approved, GigaTexas will officially be able to start deliveries to customers. And there is already a little bit of momentum on that. I'm assuming we would hopefully know as soon as Tesla got that approval, but maybe there's a chance they've already gotten it and they're not telling us, because we have one of our first more official documented cases of someone who placed an order on a performance Model Y just a few weeks ago in January, and they've already been assigned a VIN from GigaTexas. In case you're wondering how we know, the 11th digit in your VIN is going to be a letter that represents where the vehicle was built, and of course in the United States, all of our Teslas have been built at the Fremont factory, so the 11th digit is an F. However, this is the first VIN that we've gotten the full number of that's now replacing that digit with A for Austin. So there has been talks of other people getting Austin VINs before, but they've had several VINs assigned to them and they changed it up at the last minute. Plus, the previous accounts did not actually post their VINs, whereas this one we're seeing through a Facebook account is actually showing the whole thing. And the VIN build is around 130 something, so that implies that they've built many of these Model Ys over time. And what's interesting is how this customer ordered a performance white Model Y, but if you look outside the factory, we're seeing hundreds of these Model Ys stacked up, and a lot of them have covers over them, but for the most part, all of the ones that don't have covers are either black, blue, and they all have the 19-inch Gemini wheels, which only come with the long-range option. Years ago, there was an option where you could opt for a performance Tesla, but still opt for the more efficient wheels. I think that was only available on the Model 3 and Model S, though, and they stopped offering that fairly quickly because it seemed like everyone who wanted a performance model was willing to take the performance tires. So it'd be interesting if GigaTexas was actually trying to bring that option back and just say, actually, all Model Ys built here are performance, but because we know some people care more about the smoother ride and better efficiency, we're letting you buy performance Model Ys with the 19-inch tires, but there might be some issues with the size of the brake calipers and the size of those tires, so it's very possible that hundreds of these Model Ys are just test units that have the sole purpose of testing the factory and making sure quality control is good, and making sure that the factory line is working properly. And sometimes, in order to test certain things, you have to test it at scale to find out where there might be some issues. You know, you can't just build 5 vehicles and say, well, okay, those 5 looked good. Sometimes to figure out how the factory is going to perform under pressure, you do need to build hundreds, or like Giga Berlin, thousands of test units to calibrate your equipment and make sure everything is working properly. So I would say it's very, very good news that we're actually seeing VINs assigned, because I feel like Tesla wouldn't do that unless they felt confident about the yields at GigaTexas being good. Also, not to mention the guy who is assigned an Austin-built VIN has an estimated delivery within the month of March, so it's not saying April like the website is currently saying, and he did order somewhat recently, which implies that first deliveries of the 4680 Model Y might not be that too long to go, potentially in a matter of weeks, which is kind of exciting. It does get me a little bit confused on if there's a GigaTexas, you know, big barbecue going on April 7th. Is the factory gonna be mass-producing vehicles as the barbecue is happening, or are they just gonna shut it down for that one day, and because production output is gonna be so low at first, does taking one day off not matter in the meantime? And the other potentially disappointing thing, as exciting as it is to say first 4680 models are about to be delivered, is at least according to accounts like Troy Teslike on Twitter, Tesla is not necessarily looking at taking advantage of the range increase opportunity that 4680s and the structural pack offer. Most analysts right now and most rumors are suggesting that these new batteries, while cheaper for Tesla to build and more efficient for the vehicle manufacturing, will not result in any type of massive range advantage. Considering how much more energy dense these batteries are, it's looking more and more likely that Tesla is just going to put less cells in the vehicle to match the range of the current Model Ys coming out of Fremont, which means, sure, there's still advantages of GigaTexas being online, like the quality control should be A+ from this factory, the paint jobs are probably going to be much better. And if there is a structural battery pack, there's weight savings there, which means that even if the range is the same of the Fremont Model Y, this should still be an overall more efficient vehicle that consumes less watt hours per mile. And if that's the case, then the cost of ownership of GigaTexas Model Ys will be better, even if the range is matched to the 2170 option. So again, that means that the advantages might not be as great as we had hoped. You know, I was really hoping Tesla would take advantage of these range increase opportunities and make a 400-mile Model Y, but from a business perspective, it probably makes very little sense to do that because the demand is already off the charts for the Model Y. The base configuration, if you order one today, says estimated delivery of December, which means almost sold out for 2022, and it's only February, and that's with a 330-mile range. So demand is already off the charts with that configuration. If they started releasing Model Ys with better range than the Model 3 or better range than the Model S and X, then you can imagine the demand skyrocketing even further, and Tesla's not going to have the capacity for it. Plus, if you're putting less overall cells in each vehicle, that means, assuming there's enough chips, which there might not be, you'd be able to build more vehicles with the same number of cells and therefore collect more revenue on each vehicle. And of course, as we saw with Tesla opting for lithium iron phosphate in the rear-wheel drive Model 3, they don't really like talking much about the battery chemistry, at least to the consumer. At Battery Day, they love talking about all their different cathode approaches and all their structural battery pack approaches, but when it comes to the order page and the website, they don't want to say, like, oh yeah, by the way, this model you can charge to 100% every day, whereas this one you can really only charge to 80 or 90% every day. They don't want the consumer thinking about that. They just want you thinking, yeah, the range is fine, you charge it, don't worry about it, it'll work, it's fine. So if that continues to be the case, Tesla probably isn't going to make it easy for you to specify that you want a 4680 Model Y. They just want you to think, okay, this is a Tesla, it supercharges, battery, range, they're all good, don't worry about it. It's a fast vehicle, it can do a lot of the driving for you, and one day it'll be a robotaxi, so enjoy. I was really hoping that would not be the case. I would love it if you could specify on the website, like, please get me a GigaTexas model, but the truth is, if Tesla did that, they would probably get a huge influx of orders for Texas models and a huge cancellation wave for the Fremont-made Model Ys, which they probably don't want, because Fremont, at this point, is still ramping Model Ys faster than any other factory on the country, so they still need a very present and very large fan base of people ordering that configuration, and in previous earnings calls, Elon has mentioned that GigaTexas will prioritize the eastern two-thirds of the United States, which is a bit interesting because the guy who is assigned the GigaTexas VIN is from Colorado, so he's not exactly far East Coast, but he is definitely a lot more Western than I was expecting GigaTexas to prioritize. So maybe there's just so many orders to fill between California and Oregon and Washington that Fremont is just going to focus on that, and GigaTexas might prioritize more of the performance builds on the central and eastern sides of the US. But if a lot of the rumors end up being true and a lot of the analysts looking at Tesla's battery production rate are accurate, that would imply that yes, while 4680 deliveries are happening soon, we might not get any new range numbers to report, just maybe better efficiency, and there might not be any way for you to specify that you want a GigaTexas Model Y. All you might be able to do is pay attention to what vehicles are being delivered with Austin VINs, try to get the black and blue paint option, and hope that you're on the East Coast and Texas happens to prioritize you. So knowing that's a very real possibility, it's definitely put a damper on our Tesla plans, because I don't think I want to gamble with a $65,000 purchase and hope that I get a Texas model when it might be the Fremont one at the end of the day. So it's making us consider if we want to go with a lithium iron phosphate Model 3, and that's kind of our more likely scenario at this point. But hopefully I'm wrong and Tesla updates the website and we see some actual range numbers change, because I would love to find out how much better these new batteries and structural design could be. And I'm curious of your guys' theories as well. What do you think's going to happen in the coming weeks? Do you think we're close to first deliveries, or do we still got a few months to go? All that good stuff. Let me know what you're thinking down below. Thank you to everyone on Patreon supporting the channel, helping us afford a Tesla later this year, and everyone just watching the videos. That seriously helps a ton too. Take care. Have a great day.